everyone, and welcome to the late edition of What the Fuck Friday, the news portion of this particular podcast. My name is Robin Bull, and I am your host. In general, this is the podcast that, we try to make working from home work for you. But every once in a while, we like to go through and find some of the oddest news stories out there. And, make you wonder what's wrong with this world. So let's move on over into the newsroom and make sure and see what we can find out what's going on. Alright, so I have several news stories picked out for you today. This first one is from AP News. Germantown is going to hold a lottery for coveted graveyard plots. This is out of Berlin. Quiet neighbors, pristine grounds, and a view to die for. No wonder graveyard plots in Berchtesgaden are in high demand. A German news agency reported that the small town in the Bavarian Alps is now taking the unusual step of holding a lottery for vacant spaces in its cemetery. For years, authorities have apparently turned down applicants who wanted to be buried in the 17th century graveyard because there's not enough room. Now there are 200 new plots that are going to be created from unused space, so the town has decided, what better way to see who gets these spots than by having a lottery. There are 200 spots and 280 people so far have applied to get a spot. Now, the next couple of stories actually come from Arizona, and in my opinion at least, makes me wonder what's in the water there, because it seems like whatever's in the water in Arizona is the same crazy shit that's in the water in Florida. Story number one, again from AP News. Arizona man arrested after trying to pull over troopers. Arizona authorities say a 44-year-old ununiformed security guard is accused of impersonating a police officer. That seems like a bad idea. By trying to pull over an unmarked car that happened to contain two state troopers patrolling a Phoenix highway. The Department of Public Safety says Matthew Allen Disbrow of Mesa was driving his personal black Dodge Charger on Wednesday when he activated law enforcement-style emergency lights on his car to pull over the trooper's yellow Ford Mustang. According to the department, the troopers wouldn't pull over. Disbrow then drove alongside, yelled, and waved a hand at the troopers to get them to pull over before they activated their own vehicle's police lights and pulled him over instead. Court records don't list an attorney for Disbrow who could comment on these allegations. Those are some pretty serious allegations. Second story out of Arizona. An Arizona lawmaker apologized after video shows 140 mile per hour brag. Also out of Phoenix. An Arizona state lawmaker was seen telling a sheriff's deputy he sometimes drives as fast as 130 or 140 miles per hour after he was pulled over for speeding. And the deputy said in a report later that the driver claimed to have legislative immunity. Legislative immunity for speeding. Okay. State Representative Paul Mosley was stopped on March 27th outside of Parker, Arizona. The rural area near the California border is in Mosley's district and more than 150 miles west of the state capital in Phoenix. A body camera video obtained by KLPZ and first published on its website parkerliveonline.com shows a La Paz County Sheriff's deputy warning Mosley to slow down. Mosley was going 97 miles an hour at the time in a 55 mile per hour zone. Mosley then says he sometimes drives 130, 140, 120 while trying to get home to surprise his wife. He says he doesn't notice the speed because of his vehicle's nice wheels and suspension. Because, those things apparently obstruct his view from the, speedometer. Like, he has no way of knowing how fast he's going because his nice wheels and suspension obviously fuck with his vision. Yeah, I think he's funny too. The deputy's written report said Mosley told him not to waste time on the incident because he has legislative immunity. I don't break the law because I can, but because, I'm just trying to get home, Mosley says in the video. Mosley, on Thursday, posted an apology on his Facebook page referring to the comments to the deputy as a joke. It's always a joke. It's always a joke when they get caught. My desire to get home to see my family does not justify how fast I was speeding, nor my reference to legislative immunity when being pulled over, he said. Well, he said it, in my opinion, because he thought he was going to get away with it. He said his comments to the deputy were inappropriate and showed bad judgment. Well, no shit. While the state constitution does provide for certain kinds of legislative immunity, it's generally intended for actions related to legislative acts according to a state manual. And a document from November 2002 shared by the House Rules Committee says speeding tickets, as well as violations for driving under the influence, are not covered. I guess apparently he missed that memo. He missed the day when they were handing out the rule book. The video does not show the deputy, who was not identified, issuing a speeding ticket, but the incident is under review by Cochise County Attorney Brian McIntyre after the La Paz County Attorney's Office referred the incident to avoid a potential conflict of interest. McIntyre said in a statement a complaint has not yet been filed. I do not believe the ethical rules permit me to say whether I intend to charge the matter or not. However, McIntyre's statement said, I am able to say that it will be reviewed consistent with our ethical obligations, and a charging decision will be made as time and resources permit. Speaker of the House J.D. Mesnard said he was disturbed to see Mosley's actions and doesn't think that the immunity provision would apply. Mesnard said nothing short of an emergency justifies that kind of speeding, and assertions of immunity in that situation seem outside the intent of the constitutional provision regarding legislative immunity. Mosley is a Republican from Lake Havasu City and was elected in 2016, and he plans to run again this November. So, yeah, there you go. He's sorry, but, everyone's always sorry after they get caught, right? Moving right along. Again, from AP Weird News, couple who prayed for healing plead guilty in baby's death. These stories aggravate me because it seems like anytime an adult ends up going to trial for praying for their child instead of getting medical help, it's always a child involved, because we have a legal obligation, a moral obligation to protect children. You very rarely hear about this happening to someone else where they just decided to, pray for their own healing. And I actually appreciate that they have such devout faith, and I also appreciate alternative forms of medicine. However, there's a time and a place to see a doctor, especially if you're dealing with a child. But this is out of Oregon. 2 members of an Oregon church that shuns traditional medicine in favor of prayer and anointing the sick with oils pleaded guilty Monday to negligent homicide and criminal mistreatment in the death of their newborn daughter, who struggled to breathe for hours as family and friends prayed over her but did not seek medical care. Sarah Mitchell and her husband, Travis Lee Mitchell, had originally been charged with murder by neglect and criminal mistreatment in the 2017 death of their premature baby. They each were sentenced to almost 7 years in prison, with credit for 13 months in custody awaiting trial and credit for good behavior. It marked the 5th criminal case in Clackamas County, south of Portland, involving the death of a child from the religious community known as the Followers of Christ Church. Several members have been convicted of crimes for failing to seek medical care for their children, including Sarah Mitchell's sister and brother-in-law. And, I would just like to point out that Jesus said, let the little children come unto him, but he also said to render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's. And I realize that many people take that only in the sense of making sure that you're paying your taxes and doing what you're supposed to do as far as your financial obligations, but it can also be extended to cover taking care of everything else. When there is a situation and you can apply just a little bit of the common sense that God gave you, you should probably do that. Sarah Mitchell's grandfather founded the church, which traces its roots to the Pentecostal movement of the late 19th century. At a hearing in the Clackamas County Circuit Court, the Mitchell's defense attorney, Stephen Howes, read from a statement saying everyone in church should always seek adequate medical care for our children. The Oregonian/Oregon Live reported. Sarah Mitchell's father signed the statement, which will be prominently posted inside the Followers of Christ Church for all to read under the terms of the plea agreement. So hopefully this slows down and stops, unless it's one of those things like other cults where, of course, they make a nice public face, but then privately to the members it's no, no, no. Still follow the rules. Senior Deputy District Attorney Brian Brock said the couple accepting responsibility and issuing a public statement was a, quote, landmark resolution, end quote, because I suppose Senior Deputy District Attorney has never before seen anyone make a good public game face and then, turn around and do whatever it is they want to do anyway. Brock said these are senseless and avoidable deaths, and we should keep asking ourselves what it will take to convince others in the church to get the right medical care for their children. The Mitchell's other twin daughter, Evelyn, survived after a deputy medical examiner called to the house for the other baby girl's death noticed that she was also struggling to breathe. That little girl is now 16 months old and has supervised visits with her parents in custody, the newspaper reported. Sarah Mitchell received no prenatal care, and she did not know that she was carrying twins until she gave birth at her grandparents' house at least several weeks earlier, prosecutors said. The church, which operates in Oregon and Idaho, has about 1,000 members and is rooted in Pentecostalism, although it is not affiliated with any denomination. That's good because my children were raised in a Pentecostal church, and guess what? We all believed in going to the doctor where necessary. Members believe in a literal translation of the scripture, which states that faith will heal all, and if someone dies, it is God's will. The church drew criticism in 1998 after the Oregonian analyzed the deaths of 78 children buried in the church's graveyard since 1955. At least 21 of those children could have been saved by medical intervention, the newspaper reported. So, there's your, daily dose of stupid right there. That's stupid. These people are stupid. Moving on. So, this is a story I actually saw yesterday when I was on Twitter. And it is from the New York Post. Vaping co-pilot causes plane to plunge 20,000 feet. A clumsy co-pilot caused an Air China plane to plunge nearly 20,000 feet mid-air when he pulled the wrong switch while trying to shut off an air recycling system so he could vape in the cockpit. The airhead aviator was soaring from Hong Kong to the northeastern Chinese city of Dalian in a Boeing 737 jet Tuesday when he tried to stop vapor from his e-cigarette from wafting into the passenger cabin, according to CNN. Instead, the wingman accidentally triggered a drop in oxygen levels, prompting an altitude warning that caused the nearly fatal plunge from 32,800 feet to 13,100 feet in less than 9 minutes. Civil Aviation Administration of China officials told the station. The move takes bad airline service to new heights, terrified passengers said. We didn't know what was going on, nor did the flight attendants, it seemed, said Hobie Sun, a passenger on flight CA-106. Another passenger, he went on to say that he was not physically hurt, but there will be a psychological impact because when he closes his eyes, all he can see are the oxygen masks dangling in front of him. Pilots did, of course, manage to get the plane back up to about 24,600 feet. They landed at their destination, and everyone was accounted for as safe. The unnamed co-pilot will be subjected to, quote, severe punishment in accordance with laws and regulations, end quote. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Fox News. They always have some of the craziest stuff. This is out of the crime section. And, kind of it's an aggravating story because we hear all of these, please won't someone think of the children, news stories, when we're talking about giving people equal rights, or we're talking about allowing people to use whatever bathroom is open, which is silly because there's plenty of family bathrooms out there, and guess what? All of those are unisex. The bathroom in your own home is unisex, so, if you're not worried about anyone attacking you there, it's a little unfounded because the only people now who have come out of bathrooms dressed as the opposite sex to attack someone have been people trying to make light of the subject or try to prove that it's an issue when it's not, because, it's been people trying to make it an issue. Anyway, Villanova ministry director facing child porn charges called naked toddler girls hot. I'm just going to let that sink in. For those of you that don't know, Villanova is a university. And he is accused of receiving explicit photos of naked toddler girls, little girls. He is 51-year-old Timothy O'Connell, and he is, of course, facing child porn charges after he was allegedly caught exchanging child porn messages with Justin Perez Collin, who is charged with sharing the images, according to Philly.com. A district court criminal complaint released Wednesday revealed the disturbing messages the two exchanged via a mobile chat messaging service known as Kik. One of the most shocking responses was a pornographic photo O'Connell received of a 1.5-year-old girl. His response was, "Cool, she is cute." Upon receiving other sexually explicit photos of female toddlers, he responded, "Very hot, yes, very nice." That is, again, according to the criminal complaint filed against him. FBI investigators were led to O'Connell after searching Perez Collins' iPhone and finding a Gmail account accessed by O'Connell at his Drexel Hill home and inside his Villanova office. So not only is he looking at this crap at home, he's doing it on the job too, and keep in mind that, he's a ministry director, so, at a university. The FBI said O'Connell confessed he was sexually attracted to a third grader he once babysat and a 17-year-old whose photo he took while she was sleeping clothed at his house. Villanova suspended him and kicked him off the campus. A spokesperson, Jonathan Gust, said, "Villanova University is appalled and horrified by these allegations. The university has suspended this individual and he is not permitted to return to campus. Villanova is fully cooperating with the FBI in its investigation." So, he has a detention hearing set in the near future. Well, I hope they, I hope they throw the book at him, and whatever you do, if you go and look up the story on Fox.com, just stay out of the comments. They are crazy. Crazy people. They're just as crazy, if not crazier, than the people that these are talking about. So, and, I have a little something I want to play for, John, Papa John, what's his last name, Schnatter? I have a little... Someone please get him a pacifier, and while you're at it, call that man a wambulance. According to the New York Post, poor Papa John says he was pressured to use the N-word during a conference call. Pressured. He's 56 years old. And apparently, according to the story, the chain is going to remove his likeness from its logo, promotional materials, and other marketing efforts. And they made the decision days after, this dude got in trouble for using the N-word during an intercompany conference call. The Major League Baseball discontinued its Papa Slam promotion, and with at least 12 other MLB teams, including the Yankees and the Mets. The University of Louisville said they are taking Schnatter's name off of their football stadium, too. And their shares, of course, dropped to $53.55. And, let's see here. According to the story, the stocks rose the day before whenever Schnatter stepped down as chairman. The franchise said in a prepared statement in response to the reprehensible remarks made by Papa John's founder and owner, the New York Yankees are suspending their relationship with the company. The Mets said the highly offensive comments by the founder of Papa John's are completely inconsistent with our values. We immediately suspended promotional activities with the sponsor prior to our game Wednesday night. So, let's see here. This story is supposedly about how he felt pressured. Oh, there it is. I'm having to go more than halfway down the story to get to the point of the story. So you guys, New York Post, might want to consider a new format for your story. On Friday afternoon, Schnatter, in an interview with WHAS, a Louisville radio station, said he was pressured to use the N-word during the conference call. He apparently told the host of the show, "The agency was promoting that vocabulary. They pushed me, and it upset me. It caused a lot of grief for my community, for my university. My employees are distraught, they're crushed, and it's all because I was sloppy, and I wasn't as sensitive. It's the same mistake I made on the NFL comments." No, once is a mistake, although I don't count what he did there as a mistake either. Once is a mistake. Second time, you're choosing to do it on purpose, especially when it's something of this magnitude. This dude is clearly not stupid. He's not a slow learner. He just thought he could get away with it. Again. So, for those wondering about the whole thing, he got in trouble back in January because he had comments that he made about the, players who would kneel instead of stand. So, but it's not his fault. He was pressured because he's a 50-something-year-old grown man. He clearly shouldn't be in business, in my opinion, because obviously he can't withstand pressure in that manner. And yes, Snarkit of Oz, I know, it's the 14th. It is really late, but, we didn't get in last night until very, very late. But, yes, absolutely. So, moving on, and this is another disturbing story. It's actually from a local news station to me, but the story itself takes place out of Pennsylvania. Mom accused of killing her baby with drug-laced breast milk. A 30-year-old Pennsylvania woman is charged with killing her 11-week-old son by feeding him a lethal combination of drugs through her breast milk, authorities said. Her infant son was pronounced dead April 2nd at a hospital emergency room. Samantha W. Jones of Bucks County has been accused of criminal homicide. She had been feeding him formula, but around 3 a.m. on the day he died, he was crying at her home, and she was too tired to go downstairs and make a bottle of formula, according to the authorities. She told authorities she was taking a methadone prescription due to an addiction to painkillers. She tried to breastfeed him, but wasn't sure if he received any milk. The boy died from a combination of methadone, meth, and amphetamine in his system, according to the criminal complaint. Arguing for minimal bail, her attorney said the boy's death was not intentional. A judge set bail at $3 million in cash, and a preliminary hearing is tentatively set for July 23rd. Yes. That was... Oh, was it a real baby as far as the sound effect? No, I do have sound effects put in. I have one of a baby crying. But yeah, a baby actually died from breastfeeding because the mom had methamphetamine, amphetamine, and methadone. Yeah. Yep, all of it. All of it. And that's exactly why, this particular news show is generally on a Friday, and it's called What the Fuck Friday. So, yeah. Okay, so this is again from the New York Post. Controversial lollipop ad goes up in Times Square. And what it is, if you didn't see this anywhere online, it is a picture of a woman, and she has two suckers. She's holding them in the same hair. The green one is in her mouth, and she's sort of looking off to her left in a way that's coy. And then, the other sucker's next to one of them, and then it's got this little blue, or I'm sorry, it's pink. It's got these pink billboards around it. To the left of the woman's face, it says, "Got cravings," and then flat tummy underneath. And then she's in the middle. And then to the right, it says, "Girl, tell them to, #suck it." And people on Twitter are pissed off at this billboard. It's an appetite suppressant lollipop. And people are pissed because Times Square is telling women to eat less now. Well, if someone wants to lose weight, there's a reason to control your intake, and it doesn't really matter. But if women are their target market, I think it's a brilliant concept. So, and then there's a smaller billboard next to it that says 1.5 million babes and counting, and sends people, tells them where to find them on Instagram. So, yeah. Someone's pissed off that it's pink. Someone's pissed off that they're calling women babes. Someone's pissed off because they think that it alludes to success depends on a flat tummy if you're a woman, and they believe that it's atrocious. And the company responded, "We definitely aren't promoting not eating. Our pops are designed to help reduce junk food cravings in between meals to avoid boredom eating. We definitely recommend still eating meals normally. For the full details, check out flattummyco.com. Yeah. I don't know what to say about people who are getting upset over a billboard. A billboard. Again, New York Post. In case you haven't figured it out yet, I follow the New York Post on Twitter and see a lot of their stuff, and a lot of it makes me question what's wrong with humanity. An Army vet and wife consider divorce to afford daughter's health care. An Army veteran and his wife are considering a divorce just so that they can afford health care for their disabled daughter, according to a report. Texas couple Maria and Jake Gray told WFAA that their 6-year-old daughter, Brighton, requires around-the-clock care because she suffers from a rare chromosomal disorder called Wolff-Hirschhorn syndrome, which causes hearing and vision impairments, seizures, and heart and kidney problems. Even with health insurance, the family spends up to $15,000 each year out of pocket for Brighton's care, more than 30% of their annual income. I used to get anxiety just opening the mail because I was scared of what would come or what bill would come or what denial would come, Maria told the outlet. Because Jake, an Army veteran, makes $40,000 a year, the family doesn't qualify for Medicaid. They've applied for state assistance, but their number, 59,979 on the waiting list. They also have a 2-year-old girl named Farron to care for. The desperate couple is now turning to divorce as their best option to afford paying for health care, as Maria could become a single, jobless mother of 2 on paper and then qualify for Medicaid. We promised to each other and to her that we'd do whatever we could to make her life, however long she's going to be with us, as good as possible, Maria said. It would be divorce. It would be to not be together to get our child what we need. Her husband of 9 years added, "We've just struggled and struggled with it, and now we've gotten to the point where we feel it's a real possibility." Jake said he feels like what is happening to his family is morally wrong. For someone to kind of make you choose between your marriage and your child it's just a really weird spot to be in, he said. So, yeah, That's just freaking terrible. That's awful. No one should ever have to choose that. Another crazy from Fox News. I picked this one up this morning out of the crime section. And I'm going to tell you this. It takes an awful lot of Benadryl to be lethal. You know, and how would you even know someone's dead? Because, like, you give them one and they're going to be semi-comatose for, like, 2 months. Because that shit is just so strong. Anyway, woman wanted for grand theft goes missing after her husband dies with lethal levels of Benadryl in his system. Newly released records show an Idaho man who was found dead in a lake in March did not drown, but he had lethal levels of Benadryl in his system. How did he even get to the lake? That's, at this point, what I really want to know. Because, you know, you take 1 or 2 Benadryl, you're passed out on the couch, you're damn sure not going to be behind the wheel to go to the freaking lake. His wife, who was wanted on grand theft charges, has remained missing since failing to appear at her arraignment in June. Lori Barnes Eisenberg, 64, told investigators that her husband, Larry Dean Eisenberg, 68, fell off their boat into a lake in Idaho on February 13, 2018, according to the Spokesman Review. His body was found in March, more than 2 weeks after his wife reported him missing. The Spokane Medical Examiner's Office discovered lethal levels of Benadryl in his system, new records show. The document stated that there is no visible sign of stroke and no evidence of drowning. And I'm sitting here looking at a picture of these two because I thought as I was reading, oh, well, you know, maybe they went camping together and they got on the boat and she somehow managed to give him the Benadryl that way, but no one's really going to take that much Benadryl on purpose on their own. And I thought, well, maybe she gave it to him and then pulled him onto the boat. No, she did not. This is a big man and she did not move him by herself. There's just no way. After Lori Eisenberg got to the shore and spoke to the deputies after her husband fell into the lake, they noted she had a bloody nose. She told deputies her husband was not feeling well at the time, which may have caused him to fall into the water. She said he looked awful and gray before the incident. However, friends and doctors told investigators that Larry appeared to be in good health. Investigators found text messages from Larry's phone to his daughters that said he was not feeling well and may have had a stroke. However, his friends told his investigators that Larry did not use emojis, which were present in the texts. Pro tip, if you're going to try to impersonate someone, you really need to study how they write everything from their emails to their social media updates to their text messages, because that is a really, really easy fucking way to get caught. And I speak from experience because a certain former significant other tried to impersonate me as well, and the fact that he could not mimic my writing style is exactly what got him fucking caught. So, you know, if you're going to be a criminal, smarten up. Smarten up. It's very convenient, isn't it? So, let's see. Family and friends told investigators that the couple's marriage appeared perfect, but they did fight over Lori's, quote, constant enabling and giving money to help out her daughters, end quote. Michael Holmes, a friend, told investigators, Fox 28 Spokane reported. The two wed in 2004. Larry had 2 children from a previous marriage, while Lori had 6. The same day her husband went missing, the Coeur d'Alene Press released a story on why she no longer worked at the North Idaho Housing Coalition, where she served as director. An internal audit was launched. She was accused of stealing from the nonprofit. In February, she was arrested on 40 counts of forgery and 1 count of grand theft for allegedly embezzling $500,000 from the nonprofit. She was released from jail on a $75,000 bond. She has not been charged in connection with her husband's death, and she did not show up for her arraignment in May. A $500,000 bench warrant for her arrest was set. She allegedly forged signatures on checks and bought items for herself with the company's credit card. In January, the family's will had handwritten alterations on it, including a section that reallocated Larry's estate so that each child received 12.5%. I'd be curious to look up and know whether or not Idaho allows handwritten changes to an already existing will, because most states don't allow that. They'll allow a totally handwritten will in some instances, but they don't necessarily, if you have one, you can't necessarily just scratch something out and write into it. It has to be initialed, or you have to attach it as a separate sheet of paper. So, anyway. A warrant from the Spokane Sheriff's Office stated investigators were searching for evidence for crimes including murder, delay in reporting a death with the intent to prevent the discovery of the manner of death, grand theft, and criminal conspiracy. The Sheriff's Office also filed search warrants for the phones that belonged to two of Lori Eisenberg's daughters, Jessica Barnes and Amber Hosking. The two were being investigated for, quote, conspiracy to commit theft and conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree, end quote. So, yeah. She's a lot of fun. She is a lot of fun. So, anyway, that's really all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for the fantastic chat that's going on in the chat room. And my name is Robin Bull. I am, of course, your host. You can find me on confessionsfromthecouch.com with almost 2,000 subscribers. You can also find me on Facebook and Twitter /the Robin Bull.